Good morning, everyone. Please let me know if you can hear me. I believe that you probably can. I know that we were all expecting Eric this morning, but he had a little bit of a glitch with his computer. So he just called me a bit ago and asked if I would cover for him once again today. So please let me know if you can hear this. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Katrina. Appreciate that. Yeah, we were all expecting Eric today, and I'm really sorry that he's not able to do it. He had a computer glitch, but he called me a bit ago and asked if I would cover for him, so that's what I'm doing. He also sent me some information that he wanted to speak about, and so I will just kind of start there. And then I will try to answer any questions that you might have. And if you put a question mark or some Q's in the front there, I think I would be in a better position to answer those and find them. I'm just marking my phone busy so I don't get interrupted while we're talking here. So, the first thing he gave me was something about a client or a potential client that had emailed and said, "I'm disabled and receive Social Security disability. I've managed to survive with credit, but I'm just drowning and I need some help to figure this out. I'm always stressed." I think a lot of clients can relate to that. Before you've found helps and you're trying to make ends meet and it's just not working, you're getting further and further behind and just always stressed out, which isn't good for anyone. Well, most of you that have been listening for a while know that we can help because HELPS is a nationwide nonprofit law firm or a nationwide law firm that helps seniors and disabled people who are on federally protected income. Because this person, they receive Social Security disability, that's their only source of income. That is protected income, and if they just have that directly deposited into one bank checking account, that account is always going to be automatically protected from garnishment up to 2 times the amount of their monthly Social Security deposit. And most people use their money as they go, so they would rarely have more than 2 times their Social Security monthly deposit in their account at any given moment. So even if they have a part-time job or something, which this person doesn't indicate that they do, they're just on Social Security disability and are drowning in debt. So what we can do is we can help them if they would want to call, or if they left a number, we would call them back and talk to them about what we do here and see if it's a good fit, but it undoubtedly would be. And we could enroll this person and we could take the stress way down. So immediately they could be in a much better position than they are now. So yeah, so let's see. Okay, Christina is saying hello. I'm on disability and my husband works, but we are behind on our taxes. I don't sleep worrying over. Can we get help through HELPS? I've been a member for a long while now. Oh gosh, give us a call. I don't know what kind of taxes you're talking about. You could be talking about property taxes. You could be talking about IRS tax, or even state tax, or there are other taxes. But give us a call, Christina, and let's see if we can't get you some help, because if it's property taxes, we can talk about it. If it's income taxes, like with the IRS or the state, we can definitely give you some advice about that, or give you some suggestions about that, and perhaps get on. Some people that owe IRS tax debt, they get on what's called currently not collectible status with the IRS, depending on your income. And you can set up a payment plan if you don't qualify for currently not collectible status, which could be very minimal. And that's a huge help to people. So please do give us a call, Christina, and I'm sure that we can help you out with that. Another one that Eric sent to me, this person says that he's struggling and saw our TV commercial, likely the YouTube, and he said, right at a time when I needed to see it. Isn't that nice? Just when he needed to see it, it came up. So then he likely called us, and if not, we'll return the call and obviously talk to him. We do go through a little questionnaire to give us the background information we need to be able to answer your questions. Primarily, we want to know about your income and about your assets. And with that information, we can quickly determine whether or not it would be an issue for you if you were sued, because that's what we always have to think about. Not that everyone is sued, but we have to think about that possibility. And so that's why we would be asking those questions. And likely most of you have been through that with us, and you know it's not intrusive. It's just the information that we need to ask. Let's see. What time are you available today? Is that, I don't know if that question is to me or were you responding to someone else? But we are here until 5 o'clock West Coast time. It's now here a little bit after 10 a.m. And so depending on where you are, it could be a little after 1 p.m. where you are. But we are here until 5 p.m. West Coast time. That would be 8 p.m. East Coast time. And you can figure in between. So yeah, so we'll be here. Question. If husband and wife are both on home loan and one dies or goes into a nursing home, does loan need to be paid off? No, you just keep making the payments. Just keep making the payments and they'll be happy. Oh, you're very welcome, April. Glad that was helpful for you. You know to call us anytime you have a question. So any of you that have questions, you can always give us a call. HECM. I thought that was maybe a typo, a home loan. Clarify that and hopefully I can address that too. And someone's talking about a reverse mortgage, but I'm not quite sure what that related to. Sometimes you talk among yourselves, and I'm not sure if that's a question for me. But so let me go on here. This other person says they just became disabled with a debilitating disease. They've been approved for disability, and they're 59 years old, and their credit is not good. Well, if they've been approved for disability, even if they haven't quite received it yet, they can still call us. We can still enroll them if that's what's going to be happening in the fairly near future, that they're going to be having some sort of protected income. They can certainly become a client. So that's very unfortunate for them, but we're here to help. So another one, I need help with credit card debt. It got charged off and went to collector. Yeah, sometimes people have misunderstandings about charge-offs. They think that it's been charged off, so that's it. But that doesn't always mean it's it. The creditor or collector that charged it off, or the original creditor, they can sell that to a collector. And so now this person is being threatened with a lawsuit. And they say that they can make a payment or discuss options, but with their income it's just not possible. And so almost 80 years old, low income and health issues. Yeah, can't be employed. Yeah, there's lots we can do. Yeah, we would just be talking to you about your income, your assets, and how we can help you. And even if a creditor decides they're going to sue you, it's not the end of the world. I spoke with a sweet lady today that was so worried about it, and ultimately it turned out she wasn't even sued yet. It was just an attorney solicitation letter. Lots of times attorneys, particularly attorneys that do bankruptcy work for individuals, they subscribe to a service with the court whereby they get notified every time a consumer type debt lawsuit is filed. And so then they contact the defendant in the case and offer their services. And sometimes people think, oh, I've been served, like this lady had thought that she was served with a lawsuit, but in fact she wasn't actually served. She just simply got this attorney solicitation letter, and it got her all worked up, and she found us and she called, and we kind of told her how things are, and she's in a much better mental state right now. Okay. Okay, Emmy, excuse me for the cough, I'm so sorry, says, my savings account is actually money from my checking account where my Social Security is directly deposited. If a judgment is issued, is my savings account protected? Not automatically, no. So you want just one checking account where it's all directly deposited. When you move protected funds from an account where they're directly deposited into another account, that second account loses its automatic protection. The bank wouldn't know necessarily that the source of those funds was protected, and so given that money would be held up. So her savings account money would be held up. She would then have to file, depending on the jurisdiction, like something that would be called a claim of exemption or a challenge to the garnishment, something like that, and then likely have to go to a hearing, or may have to go to a hearing. If we can work it out with the other attorney, provide them with income information and bank statements, then we can usually work that out and they would release the garnishment. But if not, she would have to go to a hearing. So I oftentimes, almost always, do I send out an article that Eric wrote on bank accounts protected from garnishment, and that talks specifically about having just the one account where Social Security is directly deposited. And then any other income that you might have or any other funds from whatever source, if you put it in that account, it's always going to be automatically protected up to, if the account is no more than 2 times the monthly Social Security deposit. So just using round numbers, if you get $1,000 a month in Social Security benefits and $500 a month in part-time wages, and you put it all in there, all the Social Security is directly deposited into your checking account, and either your wages or any other funds are directly deposited into that same checking account, or if you get a paper check or have funds of some sort and you put it in that same account, up to 2 times the Social Security monthly benefits. So up to $2,000 in our example would always be automatically protected from garnishment regardless of the source of the funds. So, yeah. So let's see. Okay, a reverse mortgage? No. If you have a reverse mortgage, you and your spouse, and one dies, it doesn't have to be paid off. You're in the home for the rest of your life if that's what you want to do. So, no worries there. Let's see. Can a debt buyer buy an old account sold to them, reported on my credit card or my credit report as a new item that drops credit score? Well, yes, they can, but you can always dispute anything on your credit report. If you don't think anything is right, or if you want to, you can dispute it, and then the credit reporting company has to verify that information with the creditor or collector, and if they don't do that, or if it's not done in time, then it would be removed from your report. I know people do that. Oh, Sunset Cliff, glad to hear that. Glad to hear you got through the winter with no fine for snow on sidewalks. Perfect. Okay. Okay, so, right, we've talked about the reverse mortgage, that no, it doesn't need to be paid off when one spouse dies. So if you get it with your spouse and then one of you passes away, it does not need it. Whatever you owe on the reverse does not need to be paid. You don't need to sell the house. Nothing changes. You're still in the house until the day you die, if that's what you want to do. Michelle, I just closed my savings and transferred it to my checking to be on the safe side. Perfect. Yes, yes. If assuming Social Security is directly deposited into the checking account, that's perfect. Sometimes if people are with a credit union, you're required to keep a savings account, but you don't have to keep more than $5 in there. So you can do that if you want to stay with your credit union, but you'd want to really just use your checking account. So what does your cease and desist letter say? Kat wants to know. It goes into some detail, really. Let's see here. I can tell you. So what it says is that we indicate that you're a senior citizen or a disabled person, and that you're living on protected funds. We also let them know that you are represented by an attorney and you cannot afford to pay the debt and you're not going to pay the debt going forward. It goes into some detail, and I don't have one right in front of me, but if you're interested, I could send you a sample of that. But it just lets them know that they cannot contact you any longer. Now, it does take between 2 and 4 weeks, depending on the creditor or collector, for them to get that into their system to stop contacting you. But in the interim, you can always just not answer your phone if you don't know who's calling. That's always a good thing. Just don't answer. And if it's someone that you want to speak with, they'll leave you a message. And you can block numbers, although I realize that a number of them will call from different numbers. So that's not always successful, but regardless, you just don't have to answer your phone. And likely any legitimate collector is going to ultimately send you a letter. And once we have that and we send them a cease and desist letter, it generally is going to stop sooner rather than later. And if it doesn't, for whatever reason, we can send them a second, stronger letter that lets them know we've already advised them of this and we're serious about it. So, yeah. So I'd be glad to send you a copy of that. Can I send it on my own? Or does it look better having you guys doing it? You can send one on your own. If you're not a HELPS client, we wouldn't be able to send one for you. But you can send those things on your own. I believe there's a sample of one on the website, so you could take a peek at that. Okay, so let's see. Another person says, I am in deep debt to credit cards and don't see a way out. Well, of course, we need a little more information on that, but assuming they have federally protected income, which most people that find us understand that, they see that, they either see a YouTube video or they are referred by someone else that's maybe a client or that has investigated HELPS a little bit. And so they usually don't contact us unless they are on federally protected income. So assuming this person is, and they don't see a way out, it's very likely that we can help them. We can send out cease and desist letters to any of those credit card collectors, and this person likely doesn't have to pay them anything. And once again, we kind of need to know the situation and what jurisdiction they're in, because there are different protections depending on the jurisdiction that you're in. And then this person just received their first Social Security payment, and they've been paying a mortgage, and they have a spouse that has passed away, so things are tough. And sometimes decisions need to be made about perhaps getting a reverse mortgage, or maybe even selling a property, because it even though it may be a hard pill to swallow, it can give people peace of mind if they know they're not going to be dealing with having to try to pay a mortgage that they just can't afford to pay. And here's one that says, considering doing a bankruptcy for my husband and myself. We have Social Security income only. We're looking for other solutions other than bankruptcy. Well, HELPS is a great solution for most people that are on federally protected income, like these folks are on Social Security income only. Really, filing a bankruptcy is rarely needed, okay? And typically, if there is need to file a bankruptcy, it would be a Chapter 13, and that would be because a person's home was being foreclosed on. And if they could afford to get current on the payments over a period of time and continue to make their monthly payments. So for instance, if they had a downturn in income or a situation that took a lot of their money, but now they were in a better position or had additional funds, then maybe they could be in a Chapter 13, which is an expensive bankruptcy to file. But if it means saving the home and that's what they want to do and they're able to afford it, then that's oftentimes the very best reason for filing a bankruptcy, in my opinion, for people that are on Social Security income only. Let's see here. Oh, this person says that she was with HELPS in 2020 and 2021. Apparently she canceled for some reason, and she says, I need assistance now and need to know how to get started. And she's asking us to let her know as soon as time permits. And she's very polite. And so, sure, we can re-enroll her, no problem. When a person cancels, what we are required to do is to send out cancellation letters to the creditors or collectors that we have sent cease and desist letters to, so that they know that we're no longer representing this person. And unfortunately, at that point, they can start harassing the client. But for whatever reason, this woman had to cancel. I don't know the circumstances, but sure, we can re-enroll her, absolutely. And depending on income, about 25% of our clients pay nothing because their income is so low that they just can't afford it. And so that's what we do. We provide help for them just like we would for a paying client. It makes no difference. We never look and see, oh, they're not paying anything, so we're not going to do this. No, that never happens. You're just like anyone else, any other client, and we're happy to help everyone. So if you have federally protected income and you have debt you can't afford to pay, you should give us a call, because undoubtedly there's something we can do to help you. If not, we could maybe refer you to something that might be of assistance, but generally we would be able to help you better than, for instance, a debt settlement plan. Oh my goodness, I have so many people that call me and say, I've been in a debt settlement plan The most egregious one recently was they were paying, I believe, over $800 a month and had been doing it for a couple of years and were just drowning. They couldn't afford it. They were never told, of course, that their income was protected, because otherwise the debt settlement or debt management company wouldn't have their business. So then they find helps, and we talk about it, and to some extent, sometimes they've been somewhat happy because some of their debt has been paid off. But at what cost? They just haven't been able to really live and make ends meet. So, yeah, so we're able to help them in that way. So let's see here. If your checking account was frozen, how do you guys represent me on that? Okay, so if you are a client, then we would have talked to you sometimes at length about the importance of having just the one bank checking account where your Social Security or other federal benefits are directly deposited, and then just any other funds that you might have, keeping it into that same account and never going over 2 times your monthly Social Security direct deposit. Sometimes people have more money in their account. Sometimes they have a second account. Sometimes they just, they might have a grandchild that they've opened up an account for. And so there could be reasons, but it's a risk you take. Or sometimes it's the bank's fault, and that doesn't happen very often. And if it does, it's usually a credit union, but it's not something that happens frequently. But what we do is we ask you for bank statements to show, assuming that it's accurate, that you just had the one account, then we would ask you for bank statements proving that in the past 3 months it's been monthly deposits of Social Security. We usually ask for 3 months. And if there was more income, if there was more than 2 times your monthly federal benefits in the account, yes, it could be frozen. It could be held up. Anything over and above the 2 times your Social Security monthly deposit or your federal monthly deposit. And so then what we would do is we would write to the other attorney or to the bank, or sometimes both, and asking that to be unfrozen, because showing proof of income, that it was all protected income. Sometimes if a person has a second account because they've transferred money from their protected account into their other account, then once again we ask you for bank statements and proof of income. We usually have proof of income from a client pretty quickly after they enroll, so that we can send that out when it's necessary. So what we would do is we would send that all out. We have a lengthy letter with explanation that goes to a credit union if they have held up funds that they shouldn't have. But if the funds were frozen because you had more money in the account, it's usually a little bit easier to get those released. Whereas if you're working with a credit union that just doesn't understand. Although the most recent one I did, they sent it to their attorney, and their attorney didn't understand either. So we sent them the information and the regulations and all about it, and then he got it and communicated that to the credit union, and the credit union released the funds. So that's how we help. Let's see, if you send your own cease and desist letter claiming to be represented by a law firm but are not, that constitutes fraud for which you can be. Well, I don't know that they would actually sue you for that, but you wouldn't want to do that. You wouldn't want to lie on it. You would want to be truthful. Always want to be truthful. Okay. Let's see. If a client of HELP's passes away and the creditors start bothering the children, will HELP still handle the account? Yeah, I mean, you see, our kids aren't responsible for our debt unless they sign something to be responsible, like if they were a co-signer on a loan, something like that. But other than that, they're not responsible. And so what we always ask the surviving relatives, we ask them for, if it's a spouse or if it's the kids, if they contact us, we would ask them for a copy of the death certificate, and then we would send that out to all the creditors or collectors that were in this person's file, in the deceased person's file, and then that will stop. They will just stop. So that, I haven't known that to be an issue at all. Oh, Tom and yeah, the keto cook. Yeah, I would agree. They seem to be ramping up some. Not sure why, but and maybe I see it because we have, we're always getting more clients, so we see things happening. Like I just spoke with a gal a short time ago. All of a sudden, she was not a client, but she had 3 lawsuits, and so she's going to enroll. I'm in the process of doing that, and then we're going to be able to help her with that because she has protected income. There's nothing they can do to her. Yeah. Yeah, so let's see. Okay, so this person, it's kind of a lengthy email, but they say they've been paying state and federal back taxes for some time. But now that they're on Social Security income, assuming that's their only income, likely they could get on currently not collectible status with the IRS, so they wouldn't have to be paying that. Additionally, state taxes are really, owing state taxes, as far as collection from you, it's very similar to any other unsecured creditor. So like a credit card debt that you owe. The state tax authorities can't really do anything to you that another unsecured creditor could do, unlike the IRS. So you always want to work with the IRS. And like I say, we've got information to send you on currently not collectible status. And once again, if you are too high income, you can usually work out a reasonable payment plan with the IRS to pay very little. So that's helpful for people. Let's see what else here. Boy, I'm seeing more and more people with major health problems too. Oftentimes a person has been employed and then something happens, either they or their spouse becomes very ill, and if it's them, they need to quit working. If it's the spouse, they may very well need to quit working to care for their spouse. But I'm seeing that a lot, and it's just causing a great deal of stress because they simply can't afford to make payments on things that they'd always paid in the past. Yeah, I had someone I talked to yesterday that they were in a position, she and her husband, where they were making 6 figures, and then he became ill and they had to stop, and she cares for him, and everything changed in their life. So it's very, very hard. But on the other hand, with helps, they just don't have to pay this debt that they can't afford to pay, and they know that their income will be protected, and life goes on. So it works out. Undoubtedly it works out. I had another woman call me today, just terrified that she was going to jail. And it's not funny. It's not funny at all, but I hear it too often that people are so intimidated by being sued that they think they're going to jail. And the fact of the matter is, our clients, if you're sued for a credit card bill or some sort of a debt that you cannot afford to pay, you're not going to jail. There's no debtor's prison. It's a civil matter, and your income is protected. So even though there may be a judgment against you, you don't have to pay it. And usually the attorneys on the other side understand when we send them a letter and send proof of income and all kinds of things we can send. And they understand, and that's usually the end of it. Or if they try to garnish a bank account and they're not successful because you've protected your account by having just the one where Social Security is directly deposited and you don't have any other accounts, and so they're unsuccessful with the garnishment, they usually just stop. Now that's not to say they couldn't try it again, but generally they just stop. And so that's oftentimes the end of it. Yeah, and if they find out you're not employed, because sometimes, for whatever reason, I've received several of these garnishments where they have been sent to a company where a person worked maybe a decade ago. So they don't know where they're working. They think they are working. They're just kind of a shot in the dark. Maybe they're working here. Well, my goodness, if they would pay attention, and we've already informed them about this person and their income and have provided them with proof of income, they wouldn't go to the trouble of filing a garnishment. So anyway, that's the good news, that it's, if people have protected their account, it's not going to be an issue. And the fact of the matter is, every state protects some wages. So even if even if you are employed and your employer receives a writ of garnishment, that's not to say you're going to lose any of your income. And you have options. If your state doesn't protect enough, you can always cut back on your hours, or you can agree that you might have a little bit of a garnishment. It's not usually very much that comes out. But once again, these are things that we know when we do the intake, when we ask you questions, because we're trying to figure out what is the worst case scenario that could happen. And usually the worst case scenario is nothing. There's nothing that's going to happen. We're going to stop the creditor contact. They're not going to be able to get to you. They can file a lawsuit. They can even get a judgment, but they're not going to ever collect on it. So, yeah, no worries. So let's see. Got a couple more questions. My husband had cancer and he needed a stem cell transplant when he was 43 years old. We both have to take a year off work. Yes. I've been hearing that a lot. In fact, I talked to a lot of people, but someone, I think it was yesterday, told me that their spouse, I'm trying to remember now, had a liver transplant. Can you imagine? That's a lot. Yeah, I'm in the type to tell them where they can go if they threaten jail. Yeah, but a lot of clients are so intimidated, and these people are so nasty sometimes. So that's what we help them with. We can stop that so that they can't be contacted like that. Sounds like it takes a while to clear up improperly garnished matters, but in the meantime, landlord and others want to get paid. What to do? Okay, so keep in mind, a garnishment that's successful is rare, okay? And we're talking about a bank account garnishment. Not that wage garnishments are anything other than rare. They are rare too, but usually they're unsuccessful. So a bank account garnishment where they've held up funds that perhaps they should not have, it depends, but the person can file, and naturally they would want to file, even though we're working on it with them, with the other attorney or the bank or credit union. They would want to file a claim of exemption or an objection challenge to the garnishment, and it would set a hearing, and oftentimes we can get that resolved before the hearing. The hearing usually takes place, they try to do that within 7 days of the objection. Okay, so I just had last week, I just had a client, I guess it resolved itself last week, but I just had a client a couple weeks ago that received a copy of a writ of garnishment that went to her pension plan, and it was her deceased husband's pension where he used to work, and she was now the beneficiary of the pension money. And so she's been getting this, every day, every month since then. And one of her judgment creditors sent a writ of garnishment to the pension plan. And it just didn't sit right with me, because why would they send it to a pension plan? And clearly the pension plan is going to say, these are pension funds. But I talked to her about it, and we decided that better to be proactive and go ahead, since there's a time frame involved in filing a challenge to the garnishment, better just go ahead and do it. So we walked through that, and she filed the challenge to the garnishment, and the next day we received an answer of garnishee from the pension plan, and they said, oh yes, they employ her and she's entitled to wages and monthly. It's just ridiculous. This poor woman, she's elderly and on Social Security, and she tells me that she's suffering from dementia. And so, it was just kind of ridiculous. So I got on the phone with her and ADP, who is the payroll people for the pension, and we talked to this woman, and she understood and she realized the mistake. And I said, we really need you to amend that answer of garnishee to say that these are pension funds, because clearly they are. And she could see that it all was. And she said, well, what I'm going to do is, she gets her pension money on the 1st of the month, and I'm going to make sure that she gets all her money on the 1st of April. And then I'm going to prepare an amended answer of garnishee. But she said, it's a bureaucracy. It's going to take 7 to 10 business days before we get that out. So I spoke with the client, and so then there was a hearing. The court called up, and there was going to be a hearing, but they were able to do it by phone. And so I told her, what the story was, and I gave her some information about what we had done so she could be comfortable saying that, and she did. And the fact of the matter is, the judge said, well, sure, those are pension money, and the other attorney was going to file a motion to quash that garnishment, and they didn't take any of her funds out of her account, and so all was well. So she got all her money on time, so it's not always a long procedure. And in fact, it usually never is a long procedure. One I can remember, one time. Okay, let's see. So, well, what do you do in the meantime? Yeah, that can be a problem if it takes a long time, but usually it doesn't. Both. One of my late son's creditors called me, and I had paid that bill. It was less than $200. They said I was responsible, and a deputy was on their way. I'm glad you hung up, Kathy. That's ridiculous. Just ridiculous. Okay, needless to say, I called the sheriff, who was a good friend of my family, and gave him the number. Yes, I never heard from them again. Don't mess with little ladies in small towns. Okay, let's see. Oh, Kathy, I'm sorry to hear that. If a garnishment is issued against an investment account, does it only affect the cash account associated therewith, or can they take your stocks as well? Stocks are not protected. So if you have, for instance, an IRA, or what else might you have? You might have an annuity. Those kinds of things, state by state, are protected. They're not a federal protection, so it's state by state. And I can look up and tell you what state. But if you have stock, that's just not going to be protected unless it would be from an annuity or from in an IRA or something, but an IRA account, and there's the Roth and the regular IRAs. Generally, those are protected, as are annuities. Sometimes there are little glitches in how much is protected or what benefits are protected, but generally those things are protected. But we can look state by state and tell you about that. But yeah, generally that's nothing to worry about. But stocks, that's an issue. So we would be talking to you about that. One of the questions that we ask after we've kind of gone through your income and your assets, do you have any other assets of significant value? And oftentimes I run through a little litany of things like any other vehicles, boats, campers, trailers, stocks, bonds, collections, cash, investments, pending inheritance, personal interaction, anything like that. Or maybe that just jogs your memory about something else you might have. And then we can talk about it. And you can make an informed decision about that. But yeah, most of our clients don't have much that is vulnerable to garnishment or to a creditor if they get a judgment against them. And if there is something, we talk to them about that. And yeah, and usually it's able to be resolved before it becomes an issue. So, yeah. Well, thank you so much. I know that Eric is planning on being in tomorrow. He said he's going to be. He's going to have that computer glitch worked out, and he will be available. So I know we will all be really, really glad to see him back, and that includes me. But if you have questions, or if we've talked about something that you have an additional question on, feel free to just give us a call, because we'd like to discuss it with you, and we'd be happy to do that. There are a lot of us here that are able to help you. And the number, like you can see on the screen, 855-435-7787. And you can get on the website, www.helpsishere.org. You can get on the YouTube channel. And there are lots of ways to find out more about us. But never hesitate to call, because we'd be happy to speak with you. So I thank you all, and I wish you a very happy rest of your day. And we'll all be glad to see Eric tomorrow. And once again, I hope you have just a great day. Bye-bye.